Who's ready for a crazy story on this episode of the Hustle the Day podcast? I've got William Gay, who has lost everything multiple times, lived on the streets, and he's still fighting his way back and still showing that you can be successful against all odds. You're going to want to listen to this one. Let's jump into it. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Hustle the Day podcast. My name is Trent. I am so grateful to have William Gay here with me today. He is an awesome guy with a great story that I want the audience to hear. So, William, why don't you jump in and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I really enjoy this, and it's an exciting opportunity to get out and reach more people and share stories so that they can succeed, and that's what it's all about for me. What can I say? I have had a rather unique life. From my father was in construction as a boy, so I got to travel around the world, even spending 6 years in Saudi Arabia. Came back to the States, and that was a huge culture shock. Add to that, I'm severely dyslexic, and it wasn't until decades later that I was diagnosed as a high-functioning Asperger's. So it has put a spin on things. I spent most of my 20s just trying to understand, going after things, basically. I did a little life coaching. I also did a little bodyguarding. I worked for actually Castro, of all the strange people. One of his lead bodyguards got out of Cuba, came to the United States, and I worked for him down in Miami for a while. It's been an adventure that took me up to California. I was a management consultant for a while, which led me to buying a resort marina. And that was kind of my first $1 million losing it all. How's that? And that led me to moving across the country to the other coast to Massachusetts, living with relatives, penniless basically, starting over again. And that took me into corporate aviation, which I've always loved aviation on the private side, the general aviation it's called. And that took me to 2007, 2008, and some Asperger issues, and I lost everything again. And each time it's a growth. Each thing I've tried has grown me and expanded my universe. And it was losing everything at that point to living on the streets. And when I decided I'd had enough of that, I went and got some jobs. And 16 hours a day, standing on my feet, because of course fast food's the easiest job to get. I lost all my toenails because my feet swelled so much from being on them for so long that I lost my toenails. Not an experience I recommend. Learn from my lessons. Don't stand for 16 hours after not doing it. Okay. And that took me coming back to my roots, back to Michigan, and deciding, you know what, I need to go back into life coaching. I need to go back into leadership consulting and helping people. And that has led to me possibly getting back into corporate aviation, them reaching out to me, which is an exciting possibility, but still at its core, whether I'm doing that or not, it's helping people and learning from the lessons. Hopefully you don't have to, the audience doesn't have to go through the lessons that I've learned, and stepping up and just living a life that they're passionate about and something they care about.
Wow. I mean, we talked before we started recording, and, we communicate over email before, but even I'm blown away by hearing that story, like just all the things that you've been through, all the different avenues that you've gone down, and here you are today. You've got so many life experiences, and that's amazing. And I applaud you for losing it all twice and still going for it. We talked a little bit before about how people don't understand how difficult entrepreneurship really can be. People expect difficulties, but not necessarily losing it all twice. Moving across the country, starting over again, and staying on your feet for 16 hours and losing all your toenails. That's just not the things you typically hear in the glorious entrepreneurship journey, So I
It's
appreciate that
true.
you're sharing it, and yeah, it is true.
Well, the thing that I think a lot of people have the misconception of is that being an entrepreneur isn't work. I read a lot of, motivational stuff, especially in my 20s.
Hmm.
Love Wayne Dyer, phenomenal
Yeah,
author. It was a sad day when he passed. We still have, Anthony Robbins and these amazing people, but the part that people seem to miss, the audience, is that it's work. It doesn't matter if it's work you choose or working for somebody else, it's still
right.
work. And if you really want to succeed, you just keep striving. You keep working at whatever it happens to be, and that's how you get there. There's no, in my own YouTube videos, there's no McDonald's drive-through. Well, I'll take a level of success here, and I want this here. Oh, and I want it at this income, and then pull up to the window, and there it is.
Yep.
Even the McDonald's window, somebody has to make that stuff.
Yep.
So it's when you realize that, when you own that, and you start to understand life is the journey, that's the enjoyable part. Things get a little bit easier. Losing your toenails, you just go, yeah, they grow back, or they don't, whatever. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you're enjoying the process. You're enjoying the journey that you're going on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that growth aspect that you need to learn to love, because otherwise, it's going to be a difficult journey for sure.
Yes, absolutely. You hit the nail right on the head there.
So you've got so many different experiences and so many different places that you've been. Who would you say has been the most influential person on who you became today?
Well, of course, the people you grow up around are always influential.
Mm-hmm.
Both my parents influenced me in their own unique ways, some good, some bad. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a paradigm that, people blame their parents for things, and it's like, well, you'd better blame them for the successes as well as the failures. They did the best they could do.
Mm-hmm.
And I work with some people who that was pretty crappy, and yet they became successful people. But you need to understand that that's part of it. So while my parents, my grandparents, the people that are around you as a child, as a youth, as a teenager, even teachers, influence. I can't say that word. Oh, influence us into who we become. I also choose role models, people that I model myself after.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned, to Wayne Dyer and Anthony Robbins. I mean, he was just getting big in the 80s as I was growing up, so he was a role model. But truthfully, I love Walt Disney.
Okay.
And I love, an example I like to give, especially in business and leadership, is everyone gets into their box. So I love a Walt Disney. I say, what do theme parks have to do with cartoons? And,
That's a good point.
there's not a lot. And in my later years here, I love Richard Branson. And what do records have to do with an airline?
Mm-hmm.
Or now I see the commercials, what do records have to do with, he owns cruise ships now.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. I mean, what does one have to do with the other? And the reality is it's him. It's Branson. It's, looking at Walt Disney. And those are the keys. The problem is we all get in our little boxes and say, this is what I have to do. This is my specialty, and that's it.
Yeah.
Companies are the worst for hiring somebody in a specific niche and keeping you there. Equally, they have to. In their defense, they absolutely have to, because they need to fill that little niche, so the company can succeed. And that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's not from an entrepreneurial standpoint. It's bloody frustrating.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned that. It is the people. It is their dream is sometimes so large that if they told you your dreams, told you their dreams rather, it would be laughable to a lot of people. And
Yes.
so they hold things close to them, and then, here's a theme park, here's, space travel, all these different things that these people want to do that just kind of seems out of the blue, but they're living their dreams, they're going towards their dreams, and that's how a lot of high performing individuals are, is they go after their dreams and they're not going to let anyone tell them they won't accomplish them.
That's exactly it. That's
Yeah.
exactly. And even if you're not an entrepreneur, even within a business, if that's
Right.
what you're interested in, if that's what you enjoy, damn straight, keep going after it, because you're going to have the naysayers. You're going to have the person that says, oh, you can't do that, or you need this, or you need that. And sometimes they're right. And then you go do it.
Right.
If you need that extra education, well, go get it. I don't
Absolutely.
care what age you are. Whether you're 21 and can't figure it out, or you're 60 and you've decided you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, great, go after it. What else are you going to do with the time on on this planet? Surf Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay, or go after something you actually care about.
Right. Absolutely. Those hours of watching Netflix could be put towards something much more productive.
Well, if you have that desire, I'll
Right.
defend anyone. If they want to watch Netflix, more power to them.
Mm-hmm.
Just understand they're not going to get, other than some knowledge from Netflix and some enjoying some shows,
Right.
that's not going to move them towards, other things in their life.
Right. Absolutely.
So, as long as you understand that, I am 1,000,000% about choice, but you got to own the choice.
And not making a choice is also a choice.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And that's Netflix or video games. Hey, there's people on YouTube making millions a year playing video games, because more power to them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they love. That's huge.
Absolutely. And there's, I had a conversation with someone earlier today about, they were getting after their kids of, hey, you're spending too much time playing video games, but their goal is to be, that person who is, a Twitch streamer that's, making millions of dollars off of this, and it's just a different method than you're traditionally used to.
Exactly.
But they have their goal and they're going after it. That's what you need to support, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just understand there's, because you've set that goal doesn't mean it can't change.
Absolutely. That is true. As long as, there's a lot of goals that you can set that are lifestyle focused, not necessarily, the specific vehicle,
Right.
but you want to accomplish a specific lifestyle, the vehicle can change.
Exactly.
For sure.
That's exactly it.
So you've had, like I mentioned, you've had so many experiences, you've had so many different jobs. At what point did you decide, okay, I need to strike it out on my own, I need to start a business, I need to be that life coach? Where was it in your life that you decided, I need to go out and do this on my own?
Oh boy. See, I've never, and I think it goes back to just my growing up traveling, as well as the Asperger's and dyslexia. I've never quite done things like everyone else.
Okay.
It just never, as much as there are times I've honestly wished I could be like everyone else. And, go to school, find the good job, white picket fence. There's been numerous times in my life that I've really wished I could do that. But the real journey is understanding who I am as an individual.
Right.
One of my clients keeps saying, well, this is what I have to do. To be a success, this is what I have to do. And then he resists doing it. And it's like, so why are you resisting it? That's the real question that you need to understand for yourself, is why you're resisting this. If it really is your passion or something that you're just really even interested in, you're not going to resist doing it. I've spent the weekend, for example, reading what most people would consider as some of the driest, most boring books on the planet. It's called the FARAIM. It's Federal Aviation Regulations.
Okay.
and Airman Information Manual. And,
Mhm.
lawyerese is easier to follow than these bureaucrats that wrote this information. But to me, understanding this is interesting. And
Mhm.
I spent the weekend. I've read probably 400 pages in the last 2 days about
Wow.
how to operate an airport, and this is how the FAA mandates that you run an airport. It's boring stuff to most people, but to me, it's interesting.
Yeah.
But when somebody says, my client, this is what I have to do, but I'm not doing it, well, why aren't you doing it? The question needs to be, why aren't you going to look in a mirror and asking yourself, why aren't you doing this? And I don't care what it happens to be.
Mhm.
If you're actually interested in it, you're going to do it. Maybe that's watching Netflix. Maybe that's
Sure.
playing the video game. Whatever it happens to be, because that's where your real interest is.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, that to me, that reading that book, I have no interest in
Yeah,
that. You
most
could
people
tell me,
don't.
yeah,
Even people in aviation don't want to read these, okay?
you could say, you know what, I'll give you $1,000 if you read this book, and it's like I'll start it, but I don't know if I'll follow through on it. It's one of those things that you've got to find out what your interest is, and you know that's why people say follow your passion, just because it's what's going to keep you going even when you don't want to.
Exactly.
But now
Exactly.
with your experience, you want to get back in that world, and fortunately, through your work experience, that's now kind of falling into your lap in a way.
Time will tell.
Yeah.
Time will tell whether it does. But see, my thing is, my personal standpoint is that even if it doesn't, information's always good.
Absolutely.
So even if nothing happens with this, the knowledge I've gained won't be wasted. Some way it'll apply to something else in my life. It always seems to. So,
Yeah.
I mean, your original question, how'd I get into this? How'd I get into life? I it's something I'm interested in. My father's company as a boy always hired organizational development consultants to come in. I just thought it was fascinating, so I
Yeah.
dove into it. When I was interested in buying stuff, I bought a 16-unit apartment complex because it seemed interesting.
Hmm.
Bodyguarding was the same way. I was a ballroom dance instructor with Arthur Murray's.
Wow.
Um, my challenge is I master something and I get bored with it and move on to something else. Life
Okay.
coaching, luckily, everyone has their own stuff, so it's
Right.
not quite as boring. And so I haven't lost complete interest in it over the decades.
Well, that's good that you've mastered so many things enough to get bored with them, because I mean there's oftentimes where I feel like I'm, jack of all trades, master of none,
Mhm.
and just because I don't get to the point where I have mastered something, and then it's the shiny object syndrome. Oh, I'm gonna go tackle this, and
Mhm.
then I get a little bit into it. Oh, I'm gonna go tackle this. So that's really admirable that
Brilliant
you.
why you're doing this, because obviously you get to see shiny objects with all sorts of different people all the time.
Very true.
So it's spot on. It's a great hustle to get
Yeah,
into what you're interested in that brought you to this, and bringing so many people to other people across the planet. It's an amazing thing. It's wonderful.
absolutely. It's been a very interesting journey, and it's never boring. That's for sure. Just like again, just hearing your story, I'm fascinated by it. Even knowing some of the story previous, I didn't know all the details and the facets and of it, and it's like, wow, this is a really interesting individual. My audience needs to hear this. Like this is really cool, and so I appreciate you sharing your story with everybody.
Well,
Um,
the important part is, though, it's only really cool if you can take something out of it. If
Absolutely.
the audience, if you can find something within this that's going to help you grow and learn and get to something that you want in your life, then it's a story worth telling.
Mhm.
If it's not, turn it off. All right, I'm a waste of energy. Nobody wants to hear about my toenails falling off and the glass it felt like I was walking on. It just doesn't matter unless you can take something from it for yourself.
Absolutely. So you've had multiple times where you've had to start over. What have you taken from that? So kind of, what has been your biggest failure and what have you learned from that?
Wow. Really, my biggest failure goes straight to the Asperger's, and it's not really a failure. It's a very steep learning curve,
Hmm.
which is understanding people. There was a great book, Everything I Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten,
Hmm.
which for your average person is true. I mean, how to interact with people and get along and, sharing and all that stuff is absolutely true. The challenge is being in the spectrum is that it takes us a lot longer to clue into those uh, subtle ways of doing things.
Yeah.
We all, have our specialties and we're great at things. There's the stereotype that, that we're great with computers or something else. And that's a stereotype because we all have our niches or our specialties and interests. The problem is while we're great at that, we suck at getting along with the people around us.
Hmm.
And truly to succeed in life, it's the people around us that have us succeed. A touchy subject that I love because I love touchy subjects. Whether you love or hate Obama, whether you love or hate Trump, they became president because they got through to the people around them.
Very true.
Somebody on the spectrum isn't getting through to those people. We're not connecting the same way as a politician. But again, any successful leader, if you go to an office, the person on the spectrum is rarely, if ever, going to be the president of the company because the president of the company has to have interpersonal skills
Hmm.
that person on the spectrum isn't going to have. But the person on the spectrum probably could run the company 1,000% better from a technical side
Right.
than the person actually running it. I suspect to some degree maybe Steve Jobs was on the spectrum, which is why he got fired from Apple. Says
Right.
this is the way we're doing it, and his technical was huge.
Hmm.
His interpersonal skills maybe not so much. And so my greatest failure is also what has become my greatest strength over time, which is now helping people with the interpersonal because I've spent literally 50 years. Most people stop at kindergarten learning how to get along with people. I've been studying it for the best part of 50 years, gotten kind of good at it.
Yeah.
And that's what I bring to people is that opportunity to change their paradigms, to really achieve their goals because I've spent all this time learning it.
There you go.
And that's my expertise. That's my specialty. So it's truly what somebody's greatest failure is. 9 times out of 10 is also their greatest gift,
Hmm.
and that will become their greatest strength. But you've got to stick with it.
Absolutely.
You've got to stick with it because it's so easy along the way to just go, no, I'm going to go do something else now.
Yeah. It's
Even
very
when
easy.
I
I've
taught
done it.
ballroom dancing, whoever came in and wanted to learn dancing, whatever their worst dance was, whatever the hardest thing was for them to learn, if they stuck with it in the long run, that became their best.
Hmm.
And it's true with life that if you want a phenomenal relationship, you want to be great at raising kids, if you want to be great in a particular career choice or industry, if you don't fall down, you're not going to be a success at it.
Yeah.
It's just the reality. It's the old Batman with the Christian Bale.
Yeah.
Why do we fall down? So we learn how to pick ourselves up. And it's the honest truth. If you want to be great at it, you got to fall down. If you never fall down, you're never going to be great. I don't care what
Absolutely.
it is. Surfing. You want to be a great surfer, you got to wipe out a whole bunch, or you're
It's
never going to
true.
learn to be a great surfer. And doctors, luckily, that's why we have all the stages to get through as a doctor.
Hmm.
You've got to fail. Unfortunately, people have to die more often than not, but that's part of the learning and why we have other senior people looking over, our shoulders to mitigate that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's the truth. It's if you want to learn, you got to fall down.
Absolutely. There's so much that I can pull away from that. That was a great little segment there where I there's so many directions I want to take it because there was so much information that you just gave that was very valuable. But I think the strength versus your biggest failure aspect is huge. I think a lot of people say, I'm not good at this, I'm going to shy away from it. But it is something that you can turn it into a strength. When I started doing this hustle energy thing, we kind of talked about, I've been working on this product for so long and it wasn't working. It wasn't what I expected it to be. So in the meantime, while just sitting there waiting for things to happen, I realized there was a void for the entrepreneurship, for people in the entrepreneurship community, rather, that don't resonate with the in your face, go do work today, just, yelling, screaming, that type of personality.
Right.
And I'm very, soft spoken, more reserved, more shy. And there is an audience out there for that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And so it's always been one thing that I've considered to be my failing, but I'm trying to turn that into a strength. So I appreciate that you mentioned that, because it is very possible to turn your biggest failing into your biggest strength. And I wouldn't necessarily say that Asperger's is a failing on anyone, but
it is what it is.
It is what it is. And you can choose to have it be a crutch, or you can choose to have it be, and in your case, learn from it and be able to help other people. Overcoming those personal obstacles, we all experience that. What made you decide to take those personal obstacles and change them into strengths rather than something to fall back on?
The thing, I'm reminded of a quote that I'm going to get wrong, and that's, you can see all these problems as obstacles and stop you, or you can see it as an obstacle course that's just going to make you stronger. We're all going to have stuff come up in our life. And my favorite, I love it when people say, life is hard. I say, it is? I say, yeah, it's really hard. It's like, well, what's the alternative? Well, there's a bunch of answers to that. I mean, obviously leaving it, which is one option. Of course, if you believe in reincarnation, you're just, you're just going to come back and try again. And if you go in other directions, religious directions, or if it all stops, it doesn't really matter what the paradigm is. But if you're still here, obviously you're going with, we're going to battle this. But the reality is, and I mean this is reality, fact, okay? There's a paradigm I like in it, that's fact versus fiction, okay? A fact is something that is measurable. It's something we can all agree on. A brick is a brick is a brick, okay? Now, there's different types of bricks, but if we look at a brick, I think, and it doesn't matter what type, we're all going to agree they're pretty hard. Yeah. So the more you hit your head against that brick, it's going to hurt. The story is, why are you hitting your head against that brick instead of using it to build something? Or why are you using that brick to throw at other people? Okay, we're all agreeing it's a brick.
Right.
Maybe we're throwing it at people because we're trying to perfect ourselves. Maybe we're using it to build something, a wall. Great. Is that wall to build a building, or is it wall to keep people out? The story is, life is hard.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the story. The fact of the reality, the ultimate truth is here. Life is full of bricks. What are you going to do with those bricks? You have a choice. Life is not hard. Life is not easy. Life is just life. It's going to go on whether we want it to or not, okay? Unless we put an end to it, which is the chicken shit way out of doing things, all right? There's all sorts of stuff we can learn from it. And I don't recommend the chicken shit, although, again, I am 1,000,000,000% a person of choice. That we have the choice to do whatever we want. But that also means we have the choice to go out and empower ourselves. And that's where I have my website, Empowering Life. And I was thrilled to death to find out, just like .com and .org, there's .today. So you have empowering life today. You have the choice with whatever's going on in your life, relationships, work, not work, whatever's going on, to empower your own life by changing the story, changing the fiction, because the reality is, again, life's going to go on.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you're doing. Life is going to go on. That's a fact. Those are bricks. What are you going to do with those bricks?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to say life is hard and that's going to stop you and keep you in the position that you're in. Martin Luther King, amazing man, grew up in poverty. And everyone, I think, on the planet knows who Martin Luther King is.
Yeah.
And the amazing things that he stood for.
Absolutely.
He chose those bricks, and he didn't say life is hard. He went out and went after the things that he cared about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the real, key to life is what are you going to do with life as a brick? Is the glass half empty or half full? It's neither. It's a glass. It has something in it, which is why then you make this decision based on a story. The glass isn't half empty or half full. The fact is the glass is a glass and it has something in it. What are you going to do with it? You have a choice. We all have a choice. I mean, to do whatever we're going to do with that. And from that, we can take that forward and have a life, hopefully, now that's a conscious choice to go after the things that we actually care about.
Yeah.
And to stick with it. Because again, the glass is going to go down. It's going to go up. It's going to go all over the place. That's life,
Yeah.
It is what it is. The choices are what we're going to do with it. Again, what are you going to do with that brick? And
absolutely.
The fact is, again, life's going to go on.
Yeah. And if life is already going to be hard, why not go after the things that you want to go after? I mean,
but even in that statement, life is going to be hard. Is it going to be hard? Does it have to be hard?
It's a good point.
You made the statement, life is hard. It's hard to get your product out there. Mm-hmm. Well, you're right. You're absolutely right. But for the next person who says, wow, it's really easy, they're just as right.
True.
Because that's fiction. That's the story. The reality is there's something to do. And then there's something else to do. And then there's something else to do. And then there's something else to do. That's all you're doing is one thing. It's an obstacle course. Yeah. Each time you're going to get stronger at it. Does that make it hard? Well, if that's what you decide, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, that's very true. I appreciate that. I'm going to have to rephrase that now, the way I described that. But
because language matters.
It does,
and that language in our head matters. Yep. And there's nothing wrong with saying it's hard. Just understand it. That's your choice. It doesn't have to be hard. It's not hard for everyone.
True. Absolutely. But I love the quote in there, that life is full of bricks. What are you going to do with it? That's just an amazing quote that makes so much sense, resonates, I think, with a lot of people is, why you can either bang your head against it or you can build something with it. It's your choice.
That's exactly it. And believe me, I've banged my head against a lot of bricks. This is not coming from, inexperience, or this is not some psychology class that the professor says, no, this is, life is full of bricks, but do you build on them?
Yeah. That's a good point.
Just keep hitting your head, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely unless you're tired of hitting your head, and then, well, why do you keep doing it?
You've got a choice to do something else with it. Yeah, absolutely.
That's it. Yeah. Totally.
So simple when you put it that way.
Well, but life is simple because, again, it's the stories, it's the fiction of life that makes it difficult.
Yeah.
Reality is life is life. A brick is a brick is a brick. That's a fact. That's life. It's not good. It's not bad. It's a brick.
Yeah.
Can we get real? It's a brick. What are you going to do with it? Well, I'm going to say it's hard. It's heavy, and I don't want to pick it up. Good for you. I'm going to build it into something. Good for you. Does it matter? No, because life's going to keep going either way. The sun's going to keep showing up or it's not. If it's not, we all have some issues. The aliens have attacked or something. And, then we'll deal with that.
Well, something that isn't a fact. How do you personally define the word hustle?
Oh, you asked me this in the before we started this, and some things flashed through my mind because everyone thinks a hustle is moving fast and getting there, and I'm reminded of to hustle slowly is sometimes very important, because if you hustle fast, you're going to make mistakes.
True.
But you can still hustle slowly. Hustle to me is movement. And that's really, back in the 90s, I took some courses. A course I recommend to everyone, still around today, it's called The Forum. And it's by a company called Landmark Education. And it's a 3-day course on life. And everyone goes, well, yeah, but I'm living life. Why do I need to know that stuff? But are you living life consciously? Are you aware of these choices? And that's what this course is about. And back after doing this course and some additional courses by the same company, I came to the conclusion the meaning of life was to be doing something. Didn't matter what. I thought about water. Water is always doing something, whether it's frozen, whether it's evaporating, whether it's sitting in a lake, pond, stream. Water is constantly doing something. Even a swamp, the water is growing and doing something and evaporating and condensing. I mean, it's always doing something. So to me, that's what hustle is about, is to always be doing something.
Wow.
Always be doing something. And then you're hustling. Sometimes you need to hustle slower than others, but you're always doing something. And that's what hustle is about to me, is always doing something. And if you're sitting in front of watching Netflix and that's doing something for you, fantastic. That's great. If it's not doing what you want, well, watch more of your podcasts, talk to a life coach, talk to somebody to find where the disconnect is between Netflix and whatever it is that you want in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the analogy that you brought up of water. I mean, it's always doing something, even when it looks like it's just sitting still. It is doing something.
Water is still doing something.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop.
And a lot of people, they can look from an outside perspective and it looks like you're not going anywhere. But as long as you're constantly moving towards something and constantly doing something, one day you can turn into a waterfall. You can become a rain cloud. I really like that analogy of the water.
Yeah, it's so, but that's hustle. It's movement.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't matter if you're the tortoise or the hare, whatever, the turtle or the hare, whatever the bloody thing is called. As long as you're moving and doing something, the problem comes in when you stop.
True.
Okay. I've worked with people that are depressed and suicidal. And the reality is, you can't be depressed if you're doing something.
Yeah.
Just biologically, it can't happen. It's when you stop doing something is when the depression hits you. And this is an easy thing you can, if somebody's feeling down, do some push-ups. Even if you can only push one out, you're doing something. Go for a walk. You still may feel sad, but you're doing something.
Yeah.
It's huge. And for those that, are motivated and they're out there doing something, you look at a Richard Branson, you look at a Walt Disney when he was doing stuff, you look at anyone who's success, they're just doing things on a different scale. But one's not more important than the other, because if everyone was Richard Branson, this would be a messed up world. It's just, we need everyone to be doing. Now, does Richard Branson, get more money? Well, yeah, that's what happens when you do more.
Right.
If you do less, you don't get as much. It's just kind of the way it works. And that's less happiness, that's less money, that's less anything. Is that bad or wrong? And the reality is no. As long as you're content with wherever you are, it's a brilliant place to be.
Yeah.
Again, the problem comes in, is it where you want to be?
Yeah. I like the analogy of the push-ups because that hit me today. I took a couple weeks off from the gym, and prior to that, I do 200 push-ups, no problem. And then today, it's like getting back into it after a couple weeks. The holidays and whatnot. I was struggling after like 50. It's like, man. It's just when you stop doing something, like you said,
yes,
you start to regress. I mean, even if you don't feel like you've regressed, I mean, just a couple weeks of not going to the gym, I feel like I am way far back from where I used to be. Obviously, there's, I can ramp that effort back up, but again, it's the movement. You've got to keep moving towards that, towards whatever your goal is. And keep hustling by moving. So
that's it. It reminds me when you said that of the Disney movie Meet the Robinsons.
Mm-hmm.
And at the very end of the movie, well, all through the movie, there's the theme, keep moving forward.
Right.
And it turns out that's a quote from Disney. And, that's where the joy comes from, is as you keep moving forward, that's where life is. Again, just you're always hustling, you're always moving. Sometimes it's slower than others, as we talked about, but always moving, you're going to get to a good place. Maybe that place is Branson's billions. Maybe it's understanding that you don't want billions. You just want your life to be XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
If again, to use love Netflix, don't get me wrong. If sitting in front of Netflix is the movement that you need, okay, as long as you are happy doing it. The problem is when you're using that as an excuse, when that is stopping your movement towards whatever it is that you really care about.
Right.
That's when you need to re-examine things a little bit. Watching, again, I love podcasts, like just people reaching out and helping, reach out to coaches, therapists, church. I don't care.
Yeah.
But in doing that, you're doing, there we go in the quotes, you're doing something to change your life.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Rather than, listening to music on your commute to work, you could be listening to a podcast, and that's a small thing, but it's doing something.
Absolutely. Positively. Yes.
Absolutely. So, one person that I follow that's here locally, Sean Whalen, he's got a group of a mastermind group, and he does personal coaching and whatnot. And his most consistent message that he puts out there is if he had to start over again, the first thing he would do is hire a coach.
There you go.
So why do you think he drills that in so much, and, relate from your experience of being a life coach, how, I guess, why is that such a consistent message that he puts out there?
Oh, because we touched on this earlier, with you need other people in your life. There is no one on this planet, and I don't think there ever will be someone on this planet, or ever has been somebody on this planet, who hasn't succeeded without the help of other people around them. Mm-hmm. When I talk about Disney, he had his brother, but he also had phenomenal storytellers all around him, which is how he created the story, created the cartoons. I don't care if we're talking Genghis Khan or the biggest scum in history, Hitler. Hitler didn't become Hitler without having people around him.
Right.
If we look at some better people, Gandhi did not accomplish what he did and literally change a culture without people around him advising him and coaching him and helping him get to where he, to the person that he was.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality. There's literally, Steve Jobs had Boz. I mean, there's nobody who has succeeded or will, from Socrates, Jesus Christ, if you're into religion, had the apostles.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone who succeeds on this planet has people around them. And it's the people that think they can do it on their own that don't succeed.
Yeah.
So Sean is absolutely right. Anyone, presidents, again, Obama, Trump, I don't care. They have a cabinet. They have people that help them. Governors, mayors, anyone who wants to succeed has people around them to help them succeed, to give them a different viewpoint. You can't see the forest for the trees. If you're the only one there, you're lost in the trees. And
Absolutely.
that's just the reality. Doctors and lawyers don't treat themselves. A lawyer who has himself as a client has a fool for a client. They've got to reach out because we get myopic. All we see is directly what's in front of us. Mm-hmm. And that's where having a coach, having a leadership person in their life is huge. And it doesn't matter what you call them.
Right.
Cabinet, consultants, psychologists. I don't care. It's friends, parents in some cases. I don't care what the title is, but you have to have somebody who's rooting for you, who wants you to succeed, but can see more than just you. And it's still your plan. You're not giving it all to them, but you need the bits and pieces.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we as humans often do is get in our own heads on things. We overthink things, overcomplicate things. So it's always helpful to have that outside perspective for somebody to see it for what it is.
Exactly.
See the facts, not necessarily just the emotions side of it.
That's it. And I don't care if we talk Taylor Swift. She's had voice coaches and music coaches her entire life.
Yeah.
Donald Trump, same concept. He's had outside people helping him build his own. Whether you like him or hate him, you've got to give him kudos for being darn near with $1 billion, regardless of being president.
Right.
Obama, his wife, I think, was a huge influence. But there's other people that have influenced him to become the man that he became. And Absolutely. Who he is today, whether you agree with him or don't agree with him, I'm not touching on that.
Yeah.
What matters is to get to be a success, you have to have other people around you that are rooting you on. Okay, and that's a key part of this, because you can have other people that aren't rooting you on that are going to shut you down. Put Obama and Trump in the same room, and they are not going to empower each other. I can guarantee it. Okay, it is what it is. They have different views, and that's okay. It makes the world the amazing place that it is having people with different views. But they both have, everyone that succeeds has other people supporting them.
Yeah, and I think it's important that entrepreneurs do reach out and find people, because a lot of the times it's a pretty lonely island, at least to begin with, because you have your idea, you are going after something, and you're not necessarily sharing it with everyone, or maybe your inner circle isn't necessarily supporting it. It is important to reach out to somebody who can support you, who can help you along the way, because sometimes it does feel lonely in the entrepreneurship journey.
Exactly. And when you say island, there's an old Hugh Grant movie. It's about a boy is the title. And at the beginning of the movie, he's deciding that, every man is an island, which is a famous quote from I don't know where. And by the end of the movie, as he gains relationships and he gains these people, and he's like, well, maybe every man is an island, but it's like an island chain. And you've got all these little islands that support and surround you.
Right. That's very cool. So what, I guess, to take this a little bit directly into the entrepreneur, what's one thing you would suggest that an entrepreneur does every single day to help them succeed?
The biggest thing is, and we hit on this earlier with hustle, it's do something every day. If you can do a bunch of things, that's wonderful.
Right.
But as long as you never lose the fact that you're doing something towards whatever it is, whether it's watching a YouTube video, listening to a podcast, talking to somebody, reading a book, something talk to somebody who has succeeded. Talk to somebody who's failed, but something. Do something every day. If your goal, I'm going to use your example. If your goal is to bring a power drink, the powdered power drink to somebody, and you spend the entire day playing video games, have you done something to advance your goal?
No.
Now, you may have had a great day, which actually might advance your goal because it clears the mind and it gives you that opportunity to take the next steps forward. So maybe that is doing something to actually advance your goal. That's wonderful. Have you watched a video? I mean, so again, the fact is you did X, Y, Z. Does that preclude the story that is actually going to empower you and bring you closer to accomplishing what it is that you believe in and want to see happen?
Yeah.
So doing something is the key. It really is the key. The problem is when you zone in front of the TV for the day, and then the next day, and then the next day, and you're not doing it because you're healing. You're not doing it as a re-energizing. You're doing it because of fear. You're doing it because you're lost. Well, then you're not doing something that's going to advance you to your actual goal.
Yeah.
So just doing something.
That makes a lot of sense. Absolutely. Doing anything is better than nothing, and doing one thing, full on is better than doing a bunch of tasks half-heartedly. So I think even just accomplishing one thing a day makes a big difference in moving that peg forward towards your goal.
Exactly. And if you're not sure of what that is, we're back to reach out to a coach.
Absolutely.
Reach out to somebody else who can help you understand what it is. And maybe it's watching YouTube videos. I mean, there's brilliant videos out there. But the reality is you need interaction. And YouTube videos will only get you so far in the scheme of things, if you will.
Right. Well, that's the great thing about this podcast is, I'm reaching out, talking to people, even though I'm sitting at a desk alone in my basement, to try and get away from the distractions of kids and whatnot throughout the day. But it's been a great experience to be able to speak to entrepreneurs and then share their journeys with other people as well. Which
you may find is a greater passion than the energy drink. Maybe It's not. Maybe it's by talking to people, you're going to come across somebody else who wants to run with it. And if you're smart enough to let it go, you can see it grow and blossom into something huge.
Yeah.
Who knows? It's one of our failings, I think, as humans, is that we say this is the way it has to be.
Yeah.
Instead of going, well, the goal is to get it out there. It's not that it has to be a specific way.
Right.
That's just, maybe it's not. Maybe it's our perfectionist side is a good thing. Again, it's all in how you want to perceive it. It's the story you want to put behind it. All we have are back to the bricks here. What are you going to do with those bricks?
You create your story with those bricks one way or another.
That's exactly it. Yeah. That's exactly it.
I don't want to take too much of your time, so I want to ask one more question. Please. And that is, what is it that excites you about the future? Personal, business, whatever the case may be. What's exciting, William, about the future?
I think one of the paradigms I was taught is that if you ask a question correctly, the answer is right in the question. And that's a brilliant question. I think the answer is right there, is that there is a future. Is that we all have the opportunity to create our own future, and that every day we wake up with a whole fresh set of possibilities.
Yeah.
I don't care if you had a crappy day yesterday or phenomenal day yesterday. Today is a whole new set of possibilities.
Absolutely.
And that's all we can keep bringing is new possibilities, because we can't live in the future. The future is a direction we want to move towards. And that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But right now, today, this instant, as people are listening and watching this, they have the choice to do something. to get to the future that they would actually like to have. And that's the exciting thing about the future, is that there is a future. You can keep going after anything and everything that you want, and you get to make that decision every second. Every minute you have that opportunity, because this minute is going to lead to the next minute. But we still haven't gotten to the future. We can never get to the future. True. Unless you're Doctor Who, but that's a whole different thing. Okay? Big enough nerds out there to know Doctor Who. Okay. Without that time machine, we just ain't getting there. But so we live in the minute, we live in the moment, and enjoy that moment while working to a future that you actually care about. Mm-hmm. And don't let that, moment that isn't brilliant stop you, because there's going to be moments like, I don't care if this is the greatest passion, the thing that you've always loved, there's going to be moments that you're going, and that's with your kids, with your family, with your significant other that's in your life, and you love them with all your heart, and there's times you want to throttle the bugger, and vice versa. But that's what makes those moments amazing. That's what makes that person an amazing person in your life. Mm-hmm. That job, that thing that you're going after is the moments. Yeah. So really the future is just exciting because there is a future, and we get to create that future and make it whatever we want. Every moment of the day, we get to choose to do that.
Absolutely. That's an amazing answer, that, that we do have a future. That I think a lot of people need to realize that. They think so much in the present or in the past. The fact that you have a future is amazing in and of itself.
And you get to choose that future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Regardless of what's going on. Again, whether you're living in the slums, whether you're a refugee from wherever, you still can choose a future. You can still build on things and create a future that you want. Doesn't mean that it's going to guarantee that it's happened, but I will guarantee, here's my money back guarantee, that at the end of the time, when you're on your deathbed, whenever that happens to be, whether you're 12 because you were hit by a car or 108 because you died of old age, okay? Mm-hmm. If you've lived your life for something that you care about, it's a good life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whatever that happens to be.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned it. You've mentioned it many times, but it's a choice.
Yes.
You can choose your future, and I really appreciate that, and I think a lot of people will resonate with that as well, because a lot of people feel stuck, but really it's a choice to stay stuck or a choice to move forward.
That's exactly it. The video games are tempting, the TV, or who knows what it happens to be.
Right.
You could be out being trying to save the world, okay? Mm-hmm. But you could still be stuck in trying to save the world instead of seeing the world for what it is.
Absolutely.
So you could be stuck in all sorts of ways, but as long as you're moving forwards and you're smart enough to realize you don't have all the answers, which is why we reach out to other people.
Yeah.
Miracles can happen. Life can change, and it really is an amazing thing. And for lack of a better description, it really is a miracle that we have so much possibility. We live on a planet that we can go out and accomplish so many things. And again, I don't care if you're in war-torn parts of the world, you still have a choice. You still have that opportunity to go out and do things. It's just, we live on a fantastic planet, and human beings are pretty cool things. Whoever dreamt us up had a pretty good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very true. Humans are very interesting in their own ways. So yes. I agree with you in that. Well, I want to make sure that people can find you if they want to reach out to you. What's the best way to contact you or find more information out about you?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, there's the website, which is empoweringlife.today. There's Empowering Life Today on YouTube, where I've got close to, I think it's 100 plus videos out there. Cool. There's Empowering Life on Facebook. And while I have an Empowering Life for Instagram, I don't suggest it. I just don't have a lot. But if you want to reach out to me personally, the website, it's I am at empoweringlife.today. And that's my
Very
email
cool.
addresses. I am empowering life today. So
There you go.
take that on. But any of those ways can reach out if you're looking for a coach or a leadership consultant for your company and want to see it really take off. That's what I do, is help people grow.
Very cool. Well, I will make sure to include a link to your website in the show description so
I
people
appreciate
can just directly click to link up with you. But I really appreciate the time that you've taken out of your day to talk to me. It's been a fantastic conversation. So
I'm just grateful. I'm grateful that you're doing this. This is fantastic. And whether you have an audience of 1 or 100,000, it doesn't matter. You're making a difference, and you're doing something, and that's huge. That really is a tremendous thing, and I am so grateful that you're doing this. And thank you so much for having me on your show. This has been wonderful.
yeah, it has been wonderful. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And to the audience, I got a tremendous amount of value out of this, so I know you got value out of this today as well. So I want you to get out there and hustle the day. Thanks for listening to the Hustle the Day podcast all the way through. I really appreciate that. I just want to let you know that I help small businesses with their online strategy. So if you or anyone that you know needs help with their online strategy and owns a small business, I'm your guy. Go ahead and connect with me at Trent V Bray on Instagram or TrentVBray.com.